Come on, get your cockles. Je voudrais. Yeah, what's that? Les petits manger. Breakfast, is it? Deux billets. 2 tickets, s'il vous plaît. Anytime, governor. Come again. Down and out in Paris and London. The podcast. Okay, chapter 26. I'm just going to whisper because it's 11:30 at night when I'm recording this. And I'm going to try and stay awake. Here we go, chapter 26.
In the morning, after paying for the usual tea and 2 slices and buying half an ounce of tobacco, I had a halfpenny left. I did not care to ask B for more money yet, so there was nothing for it but to go to a casual ward. I had very little idea how to set about this, but I knew that there was a casual ward at Rompton, so I walked out there, arriving at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Leaning against the pig pens in Rompton Marketplace was a wizened old Irishman, obviously a tramp. I went and leaned beside him, and presently offered him my tobacco box. He opened the box and looked at the tobacco in astonishment.
"By God," he said, "there's 6 penn'orth of good baccy here. Where the hell did you get hold of that? You ain't been on the road long."
Oh, that's superb, isn't it? What a superb Irish accent. More accent and dialect there given through the elision of the speech to immerse us in the characterisation of these people.
"What, don't you have tobacco on the road?" I said.
"Oh, we has it. Look."
He produced a rusty tin, which had once held OXO cubes. In it were 20 or 30 cigarette ends, picked up from the pavement. The Irishman said that he rarely got any other tobacco. He added that with care, one could collect 2 ounces of tobacco a day on the London pavements.
"Do you come out of one of the London spikes, eh?"
he asked me. I said yes, thinking this would make him accept me as a fellow tramp, and asked him what the spike at Rompton was like. He said,
"Well, 'tis a cocoa spike. There's tea spikes and cocoa spikes and skilly spikes. They don't give you skilly in Rompton, thank God. Leastways, they didn't the last time I was here. I've been up to York and round Wales since."
"What is skilly?" I said.
"Skilly? A can of hot water with some bloody oatmeal at the bottom. That's skilly. The skilly spikes is always the worst."
We stayed talking for an hour or 2.
So like in the Parisian section, we've got the use of slang words and sort of dialect words, and I suppose in this case sociolect words actually, aren't they? Because they're of that certain strata of society that have their own language, almost have their own slang words for certain things, like this very watery porridge that they get given in the skilly spikes. So it gives it more authenticity, more realism.
The Irishman was a friendly old man, but he smelt very unpleasant, which was not surprising when one learned how many diseases he suffered from. It appeared, he described his symptoms fully, that taking him from top to bottom he had the following things wrong with him. On his crown, which was bald, he had eczema. He was short-sighted and had no glasses. He had chronic bronchitis. He had some undiagnosed pain in the back. He had dyspepsia. He had urethritis. He had varicose veins, bunions, and flat feet.
Apart from that, he was in full health. That's a asyndetic list, isn't it, to just give us that sense of the range of ailments that poor old, what's he called? Well, we don't know, do we? Just the Irishman.
With this assemblage of diseases, he had tramped the roads for 15 years. At about 5, the Irishman said,
"Could you do with a cup of tea? The spike don't open till 6.
I should think I could.
"Well, there's a place here where they gives you free cup of tea and a bun. Good tea it is. They makes you say a lot of bloody prayers after, but hell, it all passes the time away. You come with me."
He led the way to a small tin-roofed shed in a side street, rather like a village cricket pavilion.
That's an interesting point of comparison, to compare it to a village cricket pavilion, and it reveals Orwell's privilege and rural idyllic privilege, that bucolic symbol of sort of wealth and luxury, isn't it? The village cricket pavilion, it's a far cry from the world in which these tramps are inhabiting. So it's a telling analogy that Orwell uses that reveals his inherent inherent privilege.
About 25 other tramps were waiting. A few of them were dirty old habitual vagabonds, the majority decent-looking lads from the north, probably miners or cotton operatives, out of work. Presently the door opened, and a lady in a blue silk dress wearing gold spectacles and a crucifix welcomed us in. Inside were 30 or 40 hard chairs, a harmonium, and a very gory lithograph of the crucifixion. Uncomfortably, we took off our caps and sat down. The lady handed out the tea, and while we ate and drank, she moved to and fro, talking benignly. She talked upon religious subjects, about Jesus Christ always having a soft spot for poor rough men like us, and about how quickly the time passed when you were in church, and what a difference it made to a man on the road if he said his prayers regularly. We hated it. We sat against the wall, fingering our caps. A tramp feels indecently exposed with his cap off.
It's worth just pulling out these parentheses here, and we've seen it elsewhere. And you might want to have a collection of these, if you like collecting parentheses. I mean, some people like to collect stamps, don't they? But you might like to collect embedded clauses, I don't know. But they give us an extra information, a bit of an insight into what he understands about the tramp's life, about feeling exposed with their caps off. So it's a point of comparison you could make with Funder, in the sense that they both use parentheses to create a larger insight, also in some cases to justify a line of inquiry. And so it'd be interesting to compare the two, I think.
And turning pink and trying to mumble something when the lady addressed us. There was no doubt that she meant it all kindly. As she came up to one of the North Country lads with a plate of buns, she said to him, "And you, my boy, how long is it since you knelt down and spoke with your Father in heaven?" Poor lad, not a word could he utter, but his belly answered for him, with the disgraceful rumbling which it set up at the sight of the food. Thereafter he was so overcome with shame that he could scarcely swallow his bun. Only one man managed to answer the lady in her style, and he was a spry, red-nosed fellow looking like a corporal who had lost his stripe for drunkenness. He could pronounce the words, "the dear Lord Jesus," with less sham than anyone I ever saw. No doubt he had learned the knack in prison. Tea ended, and I saw the tramps looking furtively at one another. An unspoken thought was running from man to man. Could we possibly make off before the prayers started? Someone stirred in his chair, not getting up actually, but with just a glance at the door, as though half suggesting the idea of departure. The lady quelled him with one look. She said in a more benign tone than ever, "I don't think you need go quite yet. The casual ward doesn't open till 6, and we have time to kneel down and say a few words to our Father first. I think we should all feel better after that, shouldn't we?"
That use of the plural pronoun there as well, we, used 3 times. The last time rhetorically, and it's inclusive, but it's also quite persuasive, isn't it, as well? So there's a rhetorical quality to what she's saying there. She's implying that they need to stay and say their prayers first, and so by including herself in that pronoun, it's sort of more powerful, I think, rather than judging them on their own standard. She includes herself with them.
The red-nosed man was very helpful, pulling the harmonium into place and handing out the prayer books. His back was to the lady as he did this, and it was his idea of a joke to deal the books like a pack of cards, whispering to each man as he did so, "There you are, mate. There's a fucking nap, and for you, 4 aces and a king," etc.
In the house of God as well. Using taboo words there, possibly to shock us, but possibly more likely to show us the sensibilities, I suppose, of the people there, and the not so much the lack of respect for the church, but the very different relationship that they have with the church.
Bareheaded, we knelt down among the dirty teacups and began to mumble that we had left undone those things that we ought to have done.
A little bit of antimetabole there. Is it? Or is it chiasmus? No, it's antimetabolic. It reverses the phrase. So begin to mumble that we had left undone those things that we ought to have done. So there's antimetabole for inverting the word order there. I think in this case, it actually, because it heightens the gravity and the weight of that statement, it actually makes it seem more redundant and pointless, because they're just saying these prayers and going through the motions, paying lip service really to what the church want them to do. So by making it sound more grand with the antimetabole, it actually has a sort of opposite quality. It makes it sound more ridiculous and farcical.
Done those things that we ought not to have done, and there was no health in us. The lady prayed very fervently, but her eyes roved over us all the time, making sure that we were attending. When she was not looking, we grinned and winked at one another and whispered bawdy jokes, just to show that we did not care. But it stuck in our throats a little. No one except the red-nosed man was self-possessed enough to speak the responses above a whisper. We got on better with the singing, except that one old tramp knew no tune but Onward Christian Soldiers, and reverted to it sometimes, spoiling the harmony.
Surely bathos, isn't it, at the end there, the spoiling the harmony. I mean, can you imagine the kind of harmony or lack of harmony that would exist among these people who are there quite begrudgingly, only there for the free tea and bun? It's, to spoil the harmony. I'm sure the harmony wasn't that great to start with. So there's certainly bathos in that.
The prayers lasted half an hour, and then, after a handshake at the door, we made off. "Well," said somebody as soon as we were out of hearing, "the trouble's over. Thought them fucking prayers was never going to end." "You had your bun," said another. "You got to pay for it." "Pray for it, you mean? Oh, you don't get much for nothing. They can't even give you a twopenny cup of tea without you go down on your fucking knees for it." There were murmurs of agreement. Evidently the tramps were not grateful for their free tea, and yet it was excellent tea, as different from coffee-shop tea as good Bordeaux is from the muck called colonial claret. We were all glad of it. I'm sure, too, that it was given in a good spirit, without any intention of humiliating us, so in fairness, we ought to have been grateful. Still, we were not.
And notice there his use of the plural pronoun we as well, that he now includes himself in among these people, and he's raising a sort of a social question here of why they're not grateful for this tea that would have otherwise cost them quite a lot of money beyond their means to have such nice tea. I'm thinking loose leaf Yorkshire tea, perhaps. Well, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Mind you, I won't have one now because I will never get to sleep if I have all that caffeine. That's it for chapter 26, and I'll see you again for chapter 27. I might leave it till tomorrow because I'm falling asleep at this rate. Right. Night.